Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon. Yesterday we talked about getting mid lane challenger in solo queue with a 65% win rate, and now we're talking about getting jungle challenger in solo queue with a 64.4% win rate. As you can see here, these are the stats: 8.3 KDA, 898 GPM, and then I need to go to my champions as well to show you guys which champions we're kind of playing. So you can see here mainly Vi, Warwick, and Wukong as the main jungles that we played. But yeah, we're gonna go in a game and kind of talk about what allowed me to climb so quickly. So let's get right into it. Okay, so getting into a game. So I wanted to show this game because it's a little different in terms of like what I had to do pathing wise compared to most games. So most games I tell you guys, path towards your strongest laner, path towards the laners with the best gank setup, and play around them. But you see me here, I'm pathing towards my Kayle instead of my Samira Bard, who are obviously stronger early game. And so this is one of the more unique situations, but I want to talk about this. And then as we get throughout the video, I'm going to mention some other things that did allow me to climb. So again, normally, and this is generally true, the thought process of pathing towards the stronger laners and pathing towards the laners with better gank setup is the main way that I would be able to win a lot of games. But when it comes to early pathing, there's sometimes more creativity involved depending on unique situations. And so if we look at this situation, for example, what is my team comp? My team comp is Samira Bard. Bard's relatively strong later on in the game. Samira obviously not so much. We have Vi, who's a pretty strong late game jungler in terms of engage and whatnot. And then we have Kayle and Veigar, mega late game champions. And so my thought process here is, if we get to the late game, or if we don't get, if we don't have a decent enough early game rather, we're not going to get to the late game because Veigar and Kayle can get just destroyed early game by stuff like Lucian Aurelia. Like, these are just really bad matchups for them, and they're going to fall pretty far behind. And so my thought process with my pathing here is, I'm a champion who's pretty strong early game. I'm going to use my early game strength to just help them not die. And so again, most of the time you're trying to actually snowball through a lane, but there's certain games where you realize that snowballing is not how you're going to win. And I'm not going to snowball with this comp unless the Samira and the Bard dominate. But the problem is Pyke and Miss Fortune are not an easy lane to dominate into. So if they were playing into Vayne Yuumi, I would still go towards Samira Bard, but because they're not, again, you see all I do here is I walk up and I'm just trying to help the Kayle with the stacked wave. Like, I'm pretty much just showing Lucian like, hey, I'm here, don't do too much, don't pressure my teammate too hard, you might get ganks. Like, that's literally what I'm doing there. Is like, if he obviously walks up far enough, I'll Q onto him, but I'm mostly just trying to be like, hey man, like, you can't really do much here, I'm here. And that's really what I want to kind of, for you guys to be able to take away from this. Again, I'm just making it so that Lucian can't pressure as hard. I'm not wasting all of my time here. You're going to see I'm still going to be efficient enough. Like, I'm going to recall soon enough so that I'm still able to get my red side once it respawns. But just this little amount of pressure I add means that there is a time period where Lucian's not going to bully Kayle so hard, and then the Kayle's actually going to be able to like make it out, at least with not being put down too much in the first 2.5 minutes. And again, at this point, Lucian's low mana, he's not able to do a lot, and so instead of being worried about getting ganks and getting kills, I'm just thinking, okay, I'm going to make sure that my teammates don't fall too far behind. So that's, again, one of the more unique things. And the reason I really wanted to show this gameplay is because, generally speaking, a lot of issues that I see junglers have isn't with game, especially Master Plus junglers. I don't think they have issues with farming their camps for the most part on time, or through, doing basic things that I talk about in my videos, farming, pathing towards strong lanes, playing around strong lanes. The big things I find are they have issues finding those unique situations where you don't want to do what you would usually be told to do in a YouTube video. So again, like in this game, it's actually not as ideal to play, again, more for the aggressive snowballing lane because of your champion and your teammate strengths. Now here we just find an easy pick on the Diana, nothing too complicated there. We see our teammate rotating, we see that she's possibly low. And then another thing that I do well is I take plates after ganks. Like, this is a very common thing that allows me to snowball a lot harder. I'll actually take plates after ganks when I see them, opportunities for the ganks to work out. And then here, the reason I knew that her blue buff was up was because I didn't get blue buff from killing her. And so since I didn't get a blue buff from killing her, I knew that means that I must, her blue buff's probably about to spawn, if not already spawned. And then at this point, pretty much their entire team's here, so we don't want to do too much. But again, this is one of those unique situations where I'm actually not farming as hard as you guys normally see me farm. And again, the reason for that is because my job is more to protect people, not to be the most efficient jungler in the entire game in this situation. If I was playing Kha'Zix with a Malphite top lane on my team and a Nautilus support and then like a scaling ADC, I would just be farming and farming because that's what Kha'Zix does. But again, in this situation, making sure my laners don't fall too far behind is a lot more beneficial for my actual success. And again, you can see I'm still farming my camps. Like, I'm farming my camps roughly when they spawn. It's just I'm not farming them on cooldown as they spawn. Sometimes I'll skip a camp to look for a gank just to stop someone. Again, my goal with these ganks is not a million kills. It's stop people from dying and make sure that the enemy can't snowball too hard. And as you're going to see, despite this, despite helping my team well while still farming efficiently in this game, we're not in a good spot early game. Again, I'm the only one with the kill so far. But at the very least, again, we have some type of win condition. I'm making sure that my win conditions late game don't fall too far behind. You can see my Veigar's down 1k, even though we tried to stop him from falling behind too much, and my Kayle is only down a couple hundred, which is really good because Lucian is going to destroy a Kayle normally. So again, main takeaway from this early game is that sometimes if you just have mega scaling and your win condition revolves completely around scaling, you can play to help your scaling champions, but only do that if you know that your snowballing champions, if you have any, are not going to be very easy to snowball with, like, again, because of the Pyke misfortune being really strong early game and being hard to gank. Or in a different situation, again, if you just had no scaling champion, or no early game champions, rather. And then here we knew that we could kill the Pyke because he used all of his mobility, so I knew I could chase him under the turret. And then for some reason, my teammate stasis is me here, which was really bad. I hate having bards on my team because they do this stuff. But either way, you know, I digress. Either way, we got 3 kills. And so this brings me to my next point. So the first point was, again, the early game pathing. Most of the time, path towards your strong lanes. Sometimes you can deviate from that path towards your weaker lanes if you're just trying to protect them because you know you can only win late game. The other thing to take away is when you notice a game is going really bad early game, you want to start partially playing for Galio's Aegis. So the fact that I'm 3-1 and my teammates are 0-7 means, okay, I want to avoid the enemy a lot. I want to only take fights that guarantee me kills, and I want to play for my own stats. Because if you guys don't know how Galio's Aegis works, if you get S rating, which is better than 90% of players on the same champion in your same rank, which is determined by your stats, like your kills, your deaths, your damage taken, damage done, everything, basically. If you get better than 90%, you get S rating and you don't lose a mark even if you lose the game. If you get better than 80%, which is A rating, you then only lose, or you get 300 fortitude, which is half of a lost mark protection. And so once you realize that you're losing the game, it's pretty hard to win, your teammates are bad, and you have good stats currently, then you play for Galio's Aegis. Don't do it beforehand, so don't do it just randomly at the start of every game, because a lot of games you just play to win. But in a game like this, again, I'm playing more for the stats, so I'm looking more just like, can I get an easy kill, rather than making too many risky plays. So like even this was a mistake of me dashing into 3 people, for example, because I should have been very, very aware of the fact that I would die, but instead I got very greedy, and that was entirely a mistake for me. Meaning I die and my stats are worse. So again, I should have been very apprehensive to go in because there were 3 of the enemy there. It was a big mistake by me. They're stronger, they have more numbers, just doesn't really make sense to go in, and obviously I get punished for it. So it's not like I'm, you know, without mistakes. You can make mistakes and still climb, for sure. But as we see here, again, I have all of my team skills. And so at this point, we're very much just concerned with play on the opposite side of the jungler. Whenever the enemy jungler is doing something, I want to be on the other side, making a play there. I want to play around just getting as much gold for myself and only really looking for picks on the enemy when they overextend, because very frequently when the enemy get a lead, they overextend, and you can find picks on a couple, which lets you get that Galio's Aegis better. And it kind of simultaneously helps with coming back. Like the main way that you're actually going to come back in a game like this is going to be, and here I ulted after he used his mobility, so again, that's kind of a little thing there. You see how I waited for Pyke to use his dash second time in a row. But yeah, as I was saying, basically, it also is beneficial for you in terms of winning a lot of times to play more for those opposite side lane picks rather than fighting head on when the enemy are ahead a lot. So my main goal here is pick the enemy when I can and then use my Herald to just grab a turret bounty. So here again, Lucian kind of gets caught out for no reason. So we're able to get yet another kill. And so once again, we're at a good spot for myself because if my scaling champions continue to just, you know, be really, you know, far behind and whatever, at least I can get Galio's Aegis. If my teammates start doing well, because we at least prevented them from falling too far behind, which I know is crazy given the fact that they're 0-13. But, you know, at least if that happens, then we have a chance at as well winning because we have strong late game champions. And then here again, we're just focusing on getting waves. So it's totally fine to take the waves as well, especially with this Galio's Aegis stuff. Getting waves, especially when your teammates aren't on it, is very useful. But generally speaking, if you can find side lane waves that your teammates aren't going for, then taking them is definitely good. So here I could go bot lane, for example, if I wanted. Here I'm trying to drop my Herald because it's almost dead, or it's almost like disappeared, so I want to make sure I drop it mid, so that's why I end up going here. Normally I would go bot side if I didn't have the Herald. And then something that's important to note about Herald is they removed first turrets giving more gold, and so no longer do you really care about the first turret getting you more, you know, gold or anything. All you care about with the Herald is eventually getting a turret out of it. And I mean, you can see this fight. There's nothing too complicated here, so we don't really need to talk over it. Just, you know, I'm just basically going on enemies who get caught out, and we end up somehow killing basically all of them, which is obviously very good and where the kind of snowball starts for us. But with the Herald, you no longer care about getting first turret, so the only thing you want to make sure is that you drop it before it expires so you can get a turret out of it. But you don't need to drop it right away anymore, because if you wait to drop it, you can take advantage of the fast recall. If you end up having Herald, you actually get a faster recall like you do with Baron. So holding on to that and using that recall to have basically better tempo, get faster recalls, and just get back on the map quicker is actually generally a pretty useful thing. And then holding on to it also means that you can potentially get a tier 2 out of it if you already killed their tier 1 turrets, for example, or that type of thing. So it's actually really useful to hold on to it more frequently. However, if you see a really good opportunity to dive the enemy and drop the Herald, do it. You don't have to wait till the end. But a lot more times I have been waiting, and it has been pretty useful for me in general. So that's also something to keep in mind. So as you can see here at this point, we're in a fight, but Kael's not here. And so you can see I just leave, right? Again, Galio's Aegis, and even just this will be smart regardless. I'm not going to go fight a 4v5 around a random dragon that doesn't matter. Now, is my team going to do that? Yes, they are, because they're dumb. And so don't get me wrong, guys. Like, I know you guys, generally I show videos of games that go well because I'm trying to show you something that leads to winning, right? But if you watch my stream or you just watch some of these videos as well, my teammates do some of the same dumb things you guys, you know, have your teammates do, and I can't control that. You can't control that. We're not trying to control that. And you can see here, again, I'm looking for a pick. So, like, the main thing I was doing here is I'm trying to get Galio's Aegis, so I look for a random pick to see if someone overextended. But yeah, like, my teammates are randomly going to die before objectives or before Barons too, and they're going to fight a dragon that doesn't make sense, and that's just something you have to accept. You know, there's going to be the games where that happens, and there's going to be the games where, because you make these proper decisions, you end up just carrying and winning as well. So you kind of just have to rely on that. Here, I honestly go too aggressive. I was getting kind of tilted at my team here, frankly. Having better mental would have been useful in this situation to just not be so, you know, kind of like aggressive without taking into account my teammates' positioning. So frankly, this was a mistake by me as well. So once again, you know, I get tilted at games too at times. I have, you know, not great mental, or I just make dumb mistakes. Like, everyone makes mistakes. It is what it is. But again, like, the fundamental things that allowed me to climb are the pathing stuff we talked about early game. I don't need to reiterate once again, but the pathing things that we talked about early on in the game. Later on in the game, not valuing dragons, valuing my gold way more than that, valuing my own kind of selfish gameplay, rather than, again, fighting a random dragon when my team is behind. Now, if my team's ahead, I'll fight whatever I can because we're ahead and we're going to win fights, but I'm not going to fight from a bunch of gold behind, because that's usually what leads to people randomly dying, as we saw, for example, with my team contesting the dragon. If I was there, we still would have lost it. I just would have been dead as well. And then once again, looking for these picks on side lane when the enemy do get caught out, like the solution, for example, here. These types of things really allowed me to come back in a lot of games too, because the enemy overextend, one person gets caught, and then that leads to someone else getting caught because now we have a numbers advantage. So for this time, you know, for the time being, we're actually stronger than the enemy, even though the enemy are obviously stronger overall because they have a person dead. So since there's one person dead, we can play these fights, like we can actually take them, and we're not going to be, you know, upset about it. We can try to pick off the Pyke there. We end up getting his flash because we were able to time that properly. And so we just take advantage of the fact that we found a pick, basically. Oh, I guess a fight happens. I did not expect a fight to break out here. Loki forgot what happened in this game. So I guess basically I just saw the enemy. Since we know we have a numbers advantage, yeah, we're taking advantage of the fact that we have a numbers advantage to end up forcing a fight. So even though it might look bad, it might look like I'm caught, I can actually, you know, get a decent amount out of the enemy. Now, realistically, I feel like I'm going to look back to see if I'm right. Yeah, I definitely felt like, oh, my team should probably be here, but I guess they were kind of fighting and I was a little distracted and I didn't notice that they're on the side lane, or on the side fighting Aurelia. So probably could have been a bit more patient there. Regardless of that fact, the reason we want to kind of force fights again is because we found a pick. So now the fact that we found that pick on Lucian leads eventually in a way to a pick on Aurelia, since we had that numbers advantage. They were distracted with me as my teammates are fighting. And then now that gives us another 20 seconds to just buy more time. And so again, understanding the numbers advantage as well, understanding that when we're trying to come back, we're not trying to overforce fights. We're trying to find picks. We're trying to find fights when the enemy are you know, recalled, or when the enemy jungle is on the opposite side of the map, we force somewhere else. Just understanding that basic concept generally allows me to, again, come back in games. Once again, we go and farm the side lane so we can get our 4th item, and then we come back to protect with our team after. Aurelia, for some reason, goes in super deep, and so at this point, this is kind of where, again, someone makes a mistake. This is where we're looking to kind of make the comeback is these types of situations. Unfortunately, we don't quite get as much out of this as we probably would have liked to, but then Aurelia goes in on us. I think this is where we find a huge ultimate and kind of blow the enemy up. Yeah, we do end up pretty much getting them all here. And this is, once again, because of that early game stuff we did, and partially just because my teammates, you know, the enemy played bad, my teammates made some good plays later, but like, because of the fact that we make our teammates not fall too far behind, we're able to find these type of comeback angles, and then we're able to get the Baron out of it, and we're kind of starting our comeback in general again. So around this situation, we're looking now to see if we can fight the objective, to see if I can pick anyone off. We end up getting the Pyke. I believe we end up killing him. We do. Once again, just holding on to our mobility until he uses his dash and whatever. That was kind of mainly what we did there. And having the good target priority of noticing the Diana over the wall. So kind of paying attention to everything around me as well. Like that awareness allowed me to get the additional kill there. And then I think we get the dragon out of this. And we pick off the Aurelia afterwards. So just generally, once again, we are doing a decent job of kind of finding these comeback angles. I don't remember if this ends up being greedy or not. I think it's a reasonable choice to go in here, but yeah, I don't really remember the result low-key. Looks like we end up killing the Lucian, but basically, once again, we just use our champion strengths to find a bunch of picks, do that pretty successfully, snowball with the Baron a bit, and now we've kind of came back. Now we're looking around the Elder Dragon, and the main thing that you want to do around Elder Dragon is get control of the mid lane, and then use the control of the mid lane to go into Elder. And so you're going to see here, we don't do that super well as a team. We don't control the mid, and it leads to us getting pokes for a long time. So you're kind of going to see just a bunch. So it's fine here what we're doing. We're hovering. You see how we control the mid lane. So we make sure we have control, we have vision, everything like that. And then you're going to see as we go into it, we end up going a bit too early into the pit rather than controlling mid wave right away. So if we, again, kind of control that mid wave a bit more, it's less likely that we get poked out. Instead, I kind of sit here, I get poked out around this type of situation, and we're kind of just sitting, not doing a whole lot. When again, if we kind of pressure that mid. Now as the jungler, you don't want to fully pressure mid because you want to make sure you don't give up the objective. So that's why I'm kind of sitting and hovering here, but I'm trying to get like one of my teammates to ideally hover mid and just push that, because if we push mid, then we're in a really good spot. So it's kind of a general macro thing. You kind of have one person controlling the mid and then your team controls other parts of it. But once we realize that the fight looks really bad, which I think we're going to see especially in a second, like it already looks pretty bad here, but then it looks really bad in just a little bit. Yeah, like in this situation. And once we kind of see that, once again, I go right back to playing for Galio's Aegis. You're going to see like, okay, like my Samira gets caught, my Kayle is dead. Again, I could have probably set up better around the Baron. But now that I realize this, I'm going back to playing for Galio's Aegis. So once you realize the game is lost, even if it looked winnable again and then now it's looking lost, I'm going back to just pushing the waves out, making sure I don't die, making sure I get decent stats, pushing out the side lane wave, and giving up the Baron. Because again, that's what I'm concerned with, is like make sure that I get at least Galio's Aegis so I don't lose a mark, and that's pretty much what we do, and then we hope the enemy stall, or throw rather. And there was a time period where I went 1-7 in games and I gained a mark out of those 7 games because I got 5 S ratings and then I had loss protections for the others because of getting A ratings in previous games and whatever. So I went 1-7 and I gained a mark. So like this is like where this strategy can come in when you do get the unlucky teams. Like again, my team was of course very bad here. We almost carried them, but at some point, you know, weren't quite able to. And this is kind of what has helped me to especially be able to climb. Is this system, right? Because now not only are we 64% win rate, but a lot of our losses don't actually count as losses as well. So I was showing you guys a loss here, obviously, which is a bit weird in a video about climbing on jungle, but either way, I do think it's useful because you actually don't lose marks in this type of Galio's Aegis thing. And I was able to talk about a lot of the things that helped me climb. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.